The room was already tense when the boy rolled his eyes, leaned back in his chair, and said, loud enough for the microphones to catch every word, "You're just a TV judge. You can't tell me what to do." For half a second, nobody moved. The audience behind the rail stopped breathing. The plaintiff, a 64-year-old woman with a brace still wrapped around her wrist, stared at him like she had just heard something uglier than disrespect. Even the mother sitting beside him seemed to realize, too late, that her son had not just crossed a line. He had announced exactly what kind of case this really was. Judge Judy didn't blink. She didn't raise her voice. She just lowered her pen, fixed the boy with that flat, surgical stare that has ended more bad performances than most lawyers ever will, and said, "Young man, the problem for you is not what I can tell you. The problem is what I can prove." And just like that, the entire room knew this was no longer about a rude child having a bad attitude on camera. It was about something much worse. Because kids do not walk into a courtroom that confident by accident. They learn it, they practice it, they bring it from home. What looked like a simple small claims dispute over an electric bike crash was about to turn into a public autopsy of entitlement, coaching, and a mother who thought she could use a child as a shield. If you appreciate stories where arrogance runs straight into consequence, stay with me, because what happened next didn't just embarrass that family, it exposed them. The case started with an incident from October 6, 2025, inside the Pine Terrace apartments in Riverside, California. At 5:42 that evening, Lorraine Baxter, a retired elementary school librarian, was walking back from the mailboxes with a grocery tote in one hand and her keys in the other. She had lived in that complex for 11 years. Everybody knew her. Quiet tenant, no drama, paid early, fed the stray cats even though management told her not to. Then 11-year-old Mason Bell came flying through the central walkway on a black electric mini bike that tenants had complained about for months. Not a toy. 40-pound frame, aftermarket throttle, no helmet, no adult in sight. He clipped Lorraine hard enough to knock her sideways into a concrete planter. Her left wrist fractured on impact. Her hearing aid cracked when her head hit the ground. A bag of groceries split open across the walkway. Yogurt cups, oranges, prescription bottles, all of it rolling into the dust while Mason looked back once and kept going. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Because when Lorraine filed a claim for her urgent care bills, replacement hearing aid, and 6 weeks of physical therapy, Mason's mother, Rochelle Bell, didn't apologize. She denied everything. Said Lorraine jumped out. Said the bike barely touched her. Said her son was being targeted because people in that building don't like black boys with energy. Then she refused to pay a dime. That was why they ended up in front of Judge Judy. On paper, Rochelle came in with the kind of defense people use when they think volume can replace facts. Mason was a child. Lorraine was exaggerating. There were no real injuries. The bike wasn't even moving fast. But right away, the details started going bad for them. Judge Judy asked the first question that mattered. "Is riding those bikes permitted on the property?" Lorraine said no. Management had circulated 2 written notices since July. Rochelle interrupted and said, "He's a kid. Kids ride things." Then Judy turned to Mason and asked, "Were you told not to ride it there?" That was when he smirked, shrugged, and said, "Everybody rides there." Not an answer, a dodge. Judy caught it instantly. That means yes. The mother tried to step in, but the damage was already starting. Because once a witness decides to be cute in that courtroom, Judge Judy doesn't get louder. She gets narrower, more precise, and precision is what breaks people who came in planning to freestyle. Lorraine then produced the first piece of evidence, a property incident report from Pine Terrace, dated the same day, signed by Assistant Manager Tessa Nguyen. It documented tenant complaints, the location of the collision, and the fact that Mason's bike had been seen in the same walkway repeatedly after warnings were issued. Rochelle dismissed it as paperwork. Judy marked it anyway. Then came the medical file. Urgent care intake at 6:31 p.m. Distal radius fracture, damaged hearing aid, follow-up therapy appointments, replacement cost for the hearing device, 2,160. Rochelle's face changed a little at that number, but not enough. She still thought the case was manageable. Then investigators, really the show's producers before taping, found the detail that changed everything. Pine Terrace had a security camera above Building C, angled toward the mailboxes and the walkway. The footage had no sound, but it was clean. Time-stamped, wide angle. Mason enters frame fast. Lorraine appears from the left. Impact, fall. Mason pauses, looks back, leaves. That alone was devastating. But it still wasn't the part that silenced the room, because Rochelle had spent weeks insisting her son never hit Lorraine at all. Not, it was an accident. Not, he didn't mean to hurt her. Her position had been total denial, and total denial is a dangerous strategy when video exists. Judge Judy watched the clip once, then once more in silence. She didn't look at the mother first, she looked at the boy. "You saw her go down," she said. Mason said nothing. "You looked back." Still nothing. Then Rochelle tried the oldest move in bad parent litigation. She blamed the victim for not moving fast enough. That was the moment the atmosphere shifted from tense to ugly. Because Lorraine Baxter was sitting 6 feet away with a brace on her arm, and Rochelle Bell was arguing, not that her son made a mistake, but that a 64-year-old woman should have gotten out of the way faster. The moral center of the room snapped into focus right there. If cases like this make you think, let me know in the comments, because what came next turned a negligence case into something much more revealing. Judge Judy asked Mason whether he had posted about the incident online. Rochelle jumped in immediately. "He doesn't even use social media like that." Wrong answer. Lorraine's niece had already submitted screenshots from a disappearing Instagram story posted from Mason's account that same night at 8:14 p.m. There was Mason in the hallway mirror, grinning, one hand on the handlebars, with text across the bottom that read, "Smoked the old lady LOL." The audience made that low, involuntary sound people make when something stops being a dispute and starts becoming a portrait. Rochelle tried to claim the screenshot was fake. Then Judy asked for the phone. That's when the mother hesitated. Not for long. Just long enough. Long enough for everybody in the room to understand there was something on that device she did not want seen. The court officer handed it over. A producer had already confirmed the account identity before taping. The post had been deleted, but the cloud sync hadn't finished clearing. The image was still cached. And right beneath it was a short video draft. Never posted, just saved. Judge Judy had it played on the monitor. Mason was on the bike, laughing into the camera. Rochelle's voice could be heard from somewhere off screen saying, "Stop recording and remember what I told you." She tripped. "You don't say nothing else." No one spoke. Not the audience. Not Rochelle. Not even Mason. Because in one 8-second clip, the whole story changed. This was no longer a reckless child and an angry plaintiff. It was a child being coached to lie, then brought into court carrying that lie like a costume. Judge Judy folded her hands and looked straight at Rochelle. "This little boy didn't come in here disrespectful because he invented disrespect on his own," she said. "He came in here rehearsed. That's your work." Rochelle started to cry then, but it was the wrong kind. Not grief, not shame, panic. The kind people feel when the performance has collapsed and there is nowhere left to stand. Mason, for the first time all afternoon, stopped smirking. That was what silenced the room, not the insult, not the judge's glare. The realization that the ugliest person in the courtroom was not the child who mouthed off. It was the adult who had taught him contempt because she thought contempt would protect him from consequence. Judge Judy ruled for Lorraine Baxter in the full amount of $5,000, the jurisdictional maximum, medical costs, hearing aid damage, property loss, pain. Then she added something sharper than the money. "You are raising a boy to believe that being wrong is survivable if he lies fast enough and laughs at the right moment," she told Rochelle. "That may work in your living room. It does not work here. And one day, if you keep teaching him that lesson, he is going to say the wrong thing to the wrong person in a courtroom that is not on television." Nobody applauded. Judge Judy's courtroom doesn't need applause when the truth has done enough damage on its own. By the time the segment ended, Mason wasn't looking at the audience anymore. He was staring at the floor. Lorraine was still holding that same brace against her chest, but now the room felt different around her. Less like she had come to ask for help. More like the lie built against her had finally been removed piece by piece in public. That is why the moment stayed with people. Not because a little boy disrespected Judge Judy. Children say foolish things every day. It stayed with people because of what came after, because in less than 20 minutes Judy did what real authority does at its best. She ignored the noise, found the pattern, and named the adult behind it. Children don't usually arrive in a courtroom with polished contempt. They arrive carrying whatever the people at home have put inside them. And when that clip played, the room understood something all at once. The boy's mouth had been loud, but the mother's lesson was louder.